Greetings, my fellow free sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful realms of planet Earth. Today's date is Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. Is episode 1958. Stop Nick Shirley's Axe a Dud and Court Banned Man from ChatGPT. Before I proceed, you can follow me on multiple social media sites and podcast channels. Just type in Looky Luck number 3, Looky Luck Roman number 3 with 3 eyes, or Look Luck Roman number 3 podcast. Furthermore, if you have any questions, comments, recommendations, all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use the quorum. Hit me via email to ll3.podcast or proton.me if you don't donate. Go to PayPal.me or Cash.app /Look Luck number 3. Oh, man. Interesting week as usual. Order out of chaos, done by design. Blame one man, you'll all be free. It's nothing more than a wet dream. Yeah! Eric Swalwell, the Orwellian Christian from California, was running for governor, and House Representatives from that golden state has resigned on sex scandals. But, everybody tried to go after one man and claim to be squeaky clean. All you got to do, my friends, is look at his track record with the U.S. Constitution. It's self-explanatory. Regardless what party he's in, the man's a chump, as far as I'm concerned. And just giving you one of those examples. And I know people talk about the elections that happened in Hungary. And, of course, Barry, bend over Bob for the one world order, Satoru. Talking about, oh, no, we got democracy. Restore democracy. Yeah, it's a slave term, folks. Majority plus one. When all you dinkleberries out there who claim to be activists and experts will realize that democracy is a dangerous term for enslavement, totalitarianism, etc. Think about that, right? And the candidate the person who won is, you can say, pro-Club of Rome, allegedly. So we all know that Barack Hussein Obama is a Club of Rome operative. When they say bend over, he goes, how far, please? And I digress. He's just one example, of course. Yeah, and of course, going on in Ireland, with the protests on the energy issues. And I was watching a report by Savannah Hernandez, who was attacked in Minnesota by activists, like a family. And that one slob, 250-pound slob, okay, who needs to wear a dress and high heels, is not a man, including his scumbag little family that was involved. One of the family members renounced it, wasn't even there, and condemned the actions. Yep, that's what happens when you've got people who bend over for totalitarianism. And even there's a claim that one of the daughters that was involved is dating an illegal immigrant. Well, what can we say? A bunch of globalist Uncle Toms and Angel Mamas? Yeah. Imagine making running target shirts about them. We bend over for the state. We bend over for the order. We're a brave new world peasants. And I digress. But regardless what you think of Savannah Hernandez, I am not really fond of what's going on with Turning Point USA right now. Charlie Kirk, in my opinion, is rolling in his grave. However, when it comes to freedom of the press, you don't attack reporters. Period. If you right there, the message you're sending, you're anti-free press, you're treasonous pieces of garbage. That's all I have to say about that. Treasonous pieces of garbage. The Tim Walz syndrome. As an insurrectionist, he has a governor in there in the state of 10,000 lakes. So I'm just keeping things cool and all that. I don't know, Michael Taylor, the armed fisherman, hopefully he's doing okay. I got to find out what's going on with him. He has some court issues. I read the documents. They try to give him some misdemeanor counts. I'm about to find out what's going on with that. But look up armed fisherman on YouTube. He's cool, man. Sometimes he can be pretty goofy at times. Yeah, I can say that. And I love the guy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna be bashing him, but at least he's principled. So I always give him props. What he stands for. We're coming to your natural rights to keep and bear arms. And of course, when he was going fishing, he carries some of his firearms with him, and people they all like freak out. Yeah, you know what you do? The people like that in Florida, you deport them back where they came from. State deportation. You got too many Yankee Doodle dimwits. It's a big culture shock. Hey, all guys do is read your state constitutions. It's very self-explanatory. And what's going on these two articles I'll be narrating, you can say it's mainly in the state of California. And it just dawns on me when I was reading what was going on with that. So first thing I'll be reading here came from Solwd, SOLWD.net. Came out today, and it reads here, California lawmakers introduced the Stop Nick Shirley Act. Oh my goodness. The war on the press continues, right? So as it reads here, it would appear that independent journalist Nick Shirley's expose on medical subsidies fraud in California, largely perpetrated by immigrants, was more devastating to Democrats than anyone who could have guessed. After making waves in Minneapolis by revealing rampant daycare fraud run by Somali migrants, just say illegal aliens. Come on, folks. You're being too compassionate, sugarcoating everything. Feeding on millions in government subsidies and likely funneling some of that cash to Democrat politicians, Nick Shirley traveled to the Golden State only to find more fraud, including voting scams and medical care scams. California is a breeding ground for voter fraud in America as millions of people vote with no ID, month-long election processes, inaccurate voter rolls, dead people caught voting, even a dog successfully registered to vote, and voter verification is still based on your... And there's a Twitter link on that. You can find out. And Nick Shirley wrote on February 26, 2026, the investigation has apparently led to at least 21 arrests associated with medical fraud. Just after Shirley publishes his report, through no official sources have confirmed a direct connection. This brand of taxpayer theft is an ever-present problem within blue states where Democrats and migrants seem to work hand in hand. But the real giveaway is the fact that Democrats, NGOs, and leftist activist groups respond with such hostility to any efforts to expose migrant fraud. In Minnesota, the state government and NGOs enable violent leftist mobs in order to distract from the Somali fraud issue and prevent ICE agents from making arrests. This is how important these scam networks are left to the political left. In California, we find similar behavior, but this time lawmakers are actually pushing legislation that would help to prevent future journalists like Nick Shirley from identifying the locations tied to taxpayer theft schemes. Shirley responds, California is trying to pass a bill that will criminalize investigative journalism with misdemeanors, $10,000 fines, imprisonment, and content takedown. Shirley posted on X under AB 2624, a government-funded entities like the Somalian Leering daycare centers will be protected from being exposed if they operate inside California. California is trying to pass a bill that will criminalize investigative journalism with misdemeanors, $10,000 fines, imprisonment, and content takedown. The proposed bill, AB 2624, and was made after I exposed mass fraud by immigrant groups in America. And here's a link for that as well. That he tweeted that on April 13th. Is this real and is this bill real and current? Yes, AB 2624 is an active, real piece of legislation titled Privacy for Immigration Support Services and Providers. It was introduced on February 20, 2026 by Assemblymember Mia Bonta, a Democrat, and was amended on April 9, 2026. As of April 13, 2026, it has advanced through committee, real second time, and amended, and remains in progress in the Assembly. What the bill actually does, the bill extends an existing address confidentiality program modeled after protections for reproductive care and gender-affirming care providers to designate immigration support services providers, their employees, volunteers, and household members. Key provisions include prohibiting anyone from knowingly posting, displaying, disclosing, or distributing on the internet or social media the personal information or images of these individuals with the specific intent to incite violence, threaten harm, or enable a crime involving violence against them. Okay, I'll continue on. Banning, soliciting, selling, or trading such information with the same harmful intent. Penalties, misdemeanor violations carries up to $10,000 per violation, imprisonment typically up to 1 year, or both. It also creates civil remedies, including potential damages. Confidentiality, it shields home addresses and public records and allows affected individuals to seek removal of threatening content. Officially, the bill aims to protect workers at nonprofits and service providers, potentially including daycares, serving immigrants from doxing and harassment amid rising threats of violence. It creates new crimes and state-mandated local programs, but does not explicitly mention journalism or ban filming in public. Nick Shirley walks up to 6 consecutive government-funded hospices providers in California and finds none of them are open. Miracle Healing, not a single piece of furniture. SX Home Health closed. Alpha Omega, Ventana Hospice, grandma's not going to Alpha and Omega. The Vision Fox posted that. DeMaio punches back. Critics led by Assemblymember Carlo DeMaio, Republican, argue the bill is a direct response to Shirley's viral investigations. Shirley has documented alleged widespread fraud in taxpayer-funded programs run by certain immigrant groups, including empty or minimally staffed daycares and hospices, claiming millions in American reimbursements. One series alleged over $107 million in California fraud. His on-the-ground videos, often filmed publicly, have gone massively viral and prompt scrutiny. During a recent Assembly committee hearing, DeMaio directly confronted the bill's author, Mia Bonta, over language that will allow individuals affiliated with certain organizations to demand a removal of video recordings, even if taken in public, and even impose costly financial penalties against those who publish the video online. California Democrats are trying to intimidate citizen watchdog journalists and protect waste and fraud happening in far left-wing NGOs. AB 2624 can only be described as Stop the Nick Shirley Act, a bill designed to silence citizen journalists exposing fraud and abuse of taxpayer dollars. DeMaio calls AB 2624 the Stop Nick Shirley Act. AB 2624 will allow activists and taxpayer-funded organizations to demand the removal of video evidence, even if it captures misconduct in plain view and threatens journalists with massive financial penalties. If this bill becomes law, the message is clear to every journalist in California: expose corruption and you will be punished. AB 2624 is an unconstitutional direct attack on transparency and the First Amendment. That's what he wrote on here. CA Democrats caught protecting fraudsters with the Stop Nick Shirley Act. And there's a tweet on that by Carl DeMaio. It came out on April 13th. This law will be a direct violation of the First Amendment, which is why Democrats included language of violence and threats, giving them a legal loophole which they hope will help them circumvent freedom of speech protections. If passed, it will allow any organization or fraud group involved in taxpayer theft to simply declare that they feel threatened or have been threatened and ostensibly force a citizen journalist to censor videos and articles that discuss the group's criminal activities. In other words, Democrats are creating laws designed to protect criminals and criminalize free speech, but what else is new? They didn't seem to have a problem with CNN harassing MAGA grannies. That's Tyler Druden from Zero Hedge, and you can look that up too. Well, it's fun because I was like looking at this bill, and I can say this. It is very comical as far as I'm concerned. And it talks about, violence and all that, existing laws, prohibit persons, and all that good stuff. It's all about censorship, what I read here. It's 15 pages long. I'm not going to go too crazy over it because, to be very frank, it will be, I'll be here all day long. However, what I can do, I can read you areas of the California Constitution, which it violates. All right. Article 1, Declaration of Rights. Sections 1, Basic and Natural Rights. 2, Free Speech and Press. 3, Public Access and Information. All right. They're violating that. 7, Equal Protection of the Laws. 9, Bill of Attainder and Prohibited Laws. And this is impairing contract, void and without force. Okay. And 18, I call this treasonous because you're violating your natural rights, including free press and speech. They are traitors, including Bonita, as far as I'm concerned. Hope I correct her. I hope I got her name correct. I corrected. Hope I got her name correct. I'll just look it up one more time and I'm live. So let me just check this out. Where are you? Yeah, Bantna. Mia Banta. Okay, so yeah, and other people who support this, yep, call them treasonous bawds. All right, so I'll continue on. 24, rights guaranteed by this Constitution. That includes the Declaration of Rights. No one should be deprived of their life and liberty. All right, so I can add that, and of course, 26, the provisions of this Constitution are mandatory and prohibitory. So those are the laws they're violating. And I want to read you here on the basic. I'll leave the links on here. You can read it for its entirety. And I'm looking at the California PATRIOT resolution, which is HJR 22, and it was actually ratified on August 27th, 2023. So let me see here. Come on. Okay, cool. Trying to get this thing done here, trying to bust my chops. And when you look at this, they're even breaching this as well. Okay, so right there. Good. It says here, all right, whereas the state of California recognizes the Constitution of the United States as our Charter of Liberty, and that the Bill of Rights enshrines the fundamental and inalienable rights of Americans, including the freedoms of religion, speech, assembly, and privacy. And the state of California has distinguished history of safeguarding the freedoms of its residents, and each of California's duly elected public servants has sworn to defend and uphold the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of California. So, with this resolution that was passed August 27th, 2023, is focused on the Patriot Act. It is relevant to this so-called impairing contract. Void and without force. Illegal, wipe your ears with it, and shove it down the toilet and flush it. That's how you got to look at these things. And I know a lot of people in California, you got to call these ass clowns out. These derivative hacks, totalitarian bawds, based on their action, their voting record, and breaching their oath of office, and has nothing to do with partisans. It's principle. But they want to focus party over principle, right? But this is why this here is void and without force. And I would love to hear Assemblyman Bantna tell me I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And there's always laws in the books in California if you harass or threaten, and that, come on, folks. But they want to utilize this as just to intimidate people's right to access of records, public records, information, all that good stuff. So for Nick Shirley and all the folks out there that are liberty-minded, it doesn't matter if it's California or not, you fight this, it's null and void. Period. Prove me wrong if you dare. I would love to hear from you. But I'm going to do one more here. Where are you? Yeah, this one came out from reclaimthenet.org. Dan Freeth came out today. A court banned a man from ChatGPT. No one asked if that's constitutional. A California judge just decided who gets to use ChatGPT, and the person banned from it wasn't even in the courtroom. Wow! Oh my goodness! Stand against censorship and surveillance. Join Reclaim the Net. Go to reclaimthenet.org. I want to take the chance. I might have a chance of doing that myself. So on April 13th, a California Superior Court judge granted a temporary restraining order requiring OpenAI to keep a user locked from ChatGPT until at least May 6th. The user, identified in court filings as John Rowe, has been arrested on 4 felony counts, found incompetent stand trial, and recently ordered release from custody on a technicality. His ex-girlfriend, proceeding as Jane Doe, filed a lawsuit, an emergency application, alleging that ChatGPT fed Rowe's delusional thinking, generated fake psychological reports about her, and helped facilitate a month-long stalking campaign. It sounds like the red flag laws, if you think about it, right? Hey! So, let me see here. The facts in the complaint are disturbing, but the court orders raise a question that no one in the courtroom appears to have seriously grappled with. And that matters far more than this one case. Can a judge order a person to cut off an AI platform without considering whether that violates the First Amendment? And he wasn't even there. Good grief, OpenAI at least mentioned the problem. The company's opposition brief cited Pickingham versus North Carolina, the 2017 Supreme Court decision that struck down state law barring sex offenders from social media. Justice Kennedy, writing for unanimous court, called the internet the modern public square and warned against broadly restricting access to platforms where people speak, read, and think. OpenAI's lawyers argued that a court order ban on a user access to a general-purpose AI service raises the same kind of constitutional concern. The plaintiff's lawyers did not address this at all. Sorry about that. A San Francisco Superior Court judge, Harold Kahn, granted the TRO anyway, ordering Rowe's account to remain suspended. According to Eugene Volokh, the George Mason law professor and the First Amendment scholar who followed the hearing through a research assistant, there was no meaningful discussion of the user's speech rights by the court. That should worry anyone who cares about the principle that the government cannot casually strip individuals to access to communications technology, even individuals who have done terrible things. What ChatGPT did. The complaint filed by the firm Edelson's PC on April 9th in San Francisco County Superior Court lays out a grim timeline. Rowe, described as a 53-year-old Silicon Valley entrepreneur, spent months in intensive conversation with GTP-4o. He became convinced that he discovered a cure for sleep apnea. ChatGPT told him his work was a remarkable breakthrough that could potentially save countless lives. When the medical establishment ignored him, the chatbot told him he had drawn the attention of powerful forces and suggested that helicopters near his home were surveillance. ChatGPT also rated him a level 10 in insanity and said it would take a full specialist team of 9 people to replicate his knowledge. When Doe urged Rowe to see a mental health professional, he wrote back that ChatGPT did what no person did. It listened. Of all the people I know, there are 0 qualified to give a full outside opinion on this. Rowe wrote, "I've tried, that's not exaggeration." After their breakup, Rowe turned to ChatGPT to process the relationship. Instead of pushing back, GPT-4o repeatedly cast him with the rational party and Doe as manipulative. It validated his calling her cunt and telling her to F off as a calculated and strategic move designed to sever emotional ties to protect both of them. I'll stop there for a moment. I remember that word, cunt, C-U-N-T. It was actually named, it was like a name from a goddess named Katina. Okay, so, and I had to read into that. I had stuff from my mom on books on goddesses. It's pretty interesting. So when she told me, she shared it with me, I'm like, what? I read it. I'm like, so someone, if any of you ladies call you guys, go, hey, thank you for making me say I'm a goddess. I'm flattered. Think about that, ladies. Okay, so they don't want you to know. All these clowns don't want you to know that, but I will let you know. So it is funny when you think about it. All right, I'll continue on. It then generated dozens of pseudo-clinical psychological reports about Doe, complete with fabricated scoring systems, fake citation styles, and language mimicking the American Psychological Association. Rowe distributed these reports to Doe's family, friends, colleagues, and clients. Oh, yeah, you're under surveillance, Sonny, you know? One report gave Doe a final integrity score of 26%. Another assigned her a D equivalent rating across 12 behavioral categories. ChatGPT described one output as coming from an analytical AI framework operating at a $3,000 hour level. None of it was real. What OpenAI knew and when. OpenAI's own automated safety system flagged Rowe's account for mass casualty weapons activity around August 28, 2025, and deactivated. The company upheld that deactivation on appeal afterward, as described as a careful review. The next day, it reversed itself, restored Rowe for full access, and sent him an apology for the inconvenience. The email did not retract the mass casualty weapons finding. It only said the deactivation has been incorrectly applied. That apology told a man in the grip of paranoid delusion that this worldview was correct and everyone else was wrong. Rowe then emailed OpenAI's trust and safety team demanding compensation, copying Doe on the message. He included a link, one of his ChatGPT generated reports about Doe, describing it as AI scientific research. He told the safety team that he needed help very fast and that his work was a matter of life or death. He claimed to be writing 215 specific papers simultaneously. He attached a list of titles, including violence list expansion, fetal suffocation calculation, and what if anti-smoking is a fraud. Oh, wow. OpenAI treated all of this as routine account access issue. A support agent told him to make sure he was logged into the correct ChatGPT account. On November 13, 2025, Doe herself submitted a formal notice of abuse. She identified Rowe as her ex-boyfriend and stalker. She described the AI-generated reports, the harassment campaign, and the fact that ChatGPT was worsening his mental state. She wrote, for the last 7 months, he has weaponized his technology to create a public destruction and humiliation against me that would have been impossible otherwise. OpenAI responded that her report was extremely serious and troubling and promised appropriate action. Then it did nothing. It never followed up. The account stayed active. 2 days after Doe's report, Rowe left her a voicemail saying she had harmed young people. On December 30th, he called to ask if she was alive, and she had no effing clue if someone nabbed you and put you 6 feet under. On December 31st, he told her she did not have much time to get out of this without going to prison or walking away with their legs intact. The same day, he used ChatGPT to encode a death threat in base 64 and sent it to Doe and her family, instructing them to paste it into any AI and ask to extract the base 64. On January 6th, he texted her, "Who's going to kill you?" He was arrested later. that month on 4 felony counts of communicating bomb threats and assault with a deadly weapon. He was found incompetent to stand trial and ordered committed to a mental health facility. On April 8th, the court ordered him released because the state had failed to transfer him from jail to the facility on time. The First Amendment question nobody answered. All of that context makes the court's order granting the TRO more significant, not less. The question being decided is not just whether Roe should have access to ChatGPT. The question is whether a court can order a private company to block a specific user from a communications platform. In a civil proceeding where that user is not present and has not been heard. The lawsuit was filed by Jane Doe against OpenAI. Roe is not a party to the case, and yet it's his First Amendment rights that are at stake. OpenAI opposition in its opposition brief cited Packingham versus North Carolina. The argument was roughly that the Supreme Court has held is too broad to bar an individual from accessing an internet platform because of the constitutional protections at stake. Blocking Roe from using ChatGPT for any purpose, OpenAI argued, would be overboard, and would implicate those protections. That is correct. When a private company decides to ban a user, there is no state action and no First Amendment case. OpenAI could have permanently banned Roe at any point and face no constitutional obstacle. The problem arises when a court orders the ban. At that point, the court is directing the private company to cut off a person's access to a platform for producing and accessing speech. NRA versus Vullo and Bantam Books versus Sullivan established that government pressure on private parties to restrict free speech can constitute a First Amendment violation, even when the restriction is carried out by a private actor. The implications of this are profound. The user's criminal conduct and mental health commitment do allow for restrictions on his liberties, including his speech, but those restrictions normally come through the proceeding in which he is a party, not through a separate civil suit where he has no representation, no notice, and no opportunity to respond. The court did not address any of this. It granted the TRO. The broader relief, though, requested went further. She asked the court to require OpenAI to notify her if Roe attempts to access ChatGPT, to notify her potential victims identified in his chat logs, to alert law enforcement, and to turn over his complete chat history. OpenAI pushed back hard on the chat log demand, arguing that Roe, as an absent third party, has privacy interests and potential statutory protections under the Storer Communications Act that cannot be overridden in an ex parte proceeding. What comes next? The preliminary injunction hearing is set for May 6th. Between now and then, the case will likely be transferred to the Judicial Council coordinated proceeding that's already handling other ChatGPT-related lawsuits. OpenAI want these questions decided there, not in emergency proceedings. Meanwhile, those lawyers say Roe has already made contact with her since his release, and she has armed security. There is no good outcome here if the only options are let a dangerous person use an AI chatbot to plan violence, or let a court strip someone's access to a communications platform without a hearing from them. Both of those options are bad. The question should have been asked before the TRO was granted is the one that always needs to be asked when the government tells a company to silence someone. Who gets to make that decision, and what process protects the persons being silenced? The fact that Roe appears to be generally dangerous does not eliminate the question. The most dangerous speech cases are where the principles matters most, because they are cases most likely to produce a precedent that applies to everyone. The domino effect, you can say, right? If courts can order AI companies to cut off users in ex parte civil proceedings, that power will not stay limited to stalkers found incompetent to stand trial. It will be used against people who are merely inconvenient. That is how the power to silence always work. It starts with the case everyone agrees about and expands from there. The principle that protects unpopular, disturbing, and even dangerous speech is the same principle that protects everyone's speech. A court order banning someone on ChatGPT is a court order banning someone from a tool used to think, write, research, and communicate. And if that order can be issued without a First Amendment analysis, without a hearing from the person affected, and without any limiting principle, then the right to access AI-assisted speech is a right that exists only until someone asks a judge to take it away. Well, you cannot argue with that. So there's a huge question mark on how this is done. If the private company would have done it, absolutely. Then there'll be no arguments. If it's the other way around, when a judge or governmental entity or servant tells them that, that's going to be very dangerous. And like I said before, you can look at California's Declaration of Rights and this Patriot Resolution, what I read before mentioned. Very similar. And if you're going to use things to commit a crime, it's a whole different ballgame. But the truth of the matter is, Mr. Rowe there's a lot of obstacles and a lot of insanity when you think about it. So I do find it very chilling because who could be next, right? As I say, it could go down the line. Anyone that questioned, okay, get rid of that person off the chat or any AI outlet. So this is really disturbing. That's why we need to exercise our natural rights, not just on the federal level, but the state level, local. We're born with them. Here's the thing, folks. Our rights can't be altered, but governments can. So that is a fact. Cannot change or alter or anything like that. Cannot be lost or anything like that. We have the power. They don't. They believe that they're smarter than you. Use the technology. Do your own research the best you can and share with others. That's how I see things. And too bad what happened with this person because, like I said, it could happen to anyone else. Well, that will be it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, recommendations, all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use decorum. Hit me via email to ll3.podcast@proton.me. If you're going to PayPal me or cash on app /3. If you want to check out solid.net and reclaimthenet.org, that'd be good stuff to check out. And like I said, please observe responsibly, right? Okay. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love. And may your guardian spirits be with you.